Hey everybody, welcome to ThisCourse, the podcast you already can't remember. My name is Ian.
And I'm Chad Smith, the Olympic gold medalist for the United States of America in ignoring red flags.
And today we're going to be talking about the right to be forgotten. But first, some news.
Yeah, so I just want to do an aside right here before we get into this. This is not a political podcast. We are not politically oriented. We're not politically engaged. This is a relationship podcast. And the relationship we're going to be talking about today is why so many Ukrainian people, activists, what do you call them, are so invested in literal Nazis.
Nerds.
Yeah, they're nerds.
That's the word.
Oh, what's the difference?
Between nerds and people, a lot.
Oh. So, if anybody at home is wondering what the hell I'm talking about, there was a recent, let's call it an atrocity, a human rights
Violation.
catastrophe.
Oh, catastrophe.
Okay, in the country of Belarus, which is almost. You ask people like, "Hey, where's Belarus on a map?" They're like, first of all, what the fuck did you just call me? Second of all, my grandfather fought in the war, and they can't tell you where the fuck Belarus is because Belarus is kind of like, it's like Ukraine 2.0. It's like Ukraine's cousin. It's like Ukraine's. In Ukraine's stepsister.
There's got to be a point in there somewhere.
That it's really hot for. You know what I'm saying? No, I'm just kidding. But Belarus is an interesting place because a lot of news outlets, especially ones that are particularly against there being sort of an alternate trade ecosystem aside from the
what?
West. What?
Alternate trade?
Yeah, an alternate trade ecosystem. So, under the United States' hegemony, I guess, the United States hegemony.
Which means monopoly.
Right.
Oh,
a
score
viciously
one for me.
enforced one.
Oh, okay.
An ideologically enforced one. It's a monopoly that is at all turns violently enforced in every aspect of life.
Tight.
Right. Not so tight, in my opinion, but, different strokes for different folks.
I'm a fan of fascism.
As we've seen these past several episodes, especially with some of those memes you made.
As I've made very clear, I just really hate human rights.
Same. I think they're stupid. No, I'm sure a lot of people probably think that about me. But no, I mean, I believe in human rights. I think that people, in fact, we're going to be talking about a particularly...
I don't believe in them. I don't think they exist.
Oh, shit. We're going to be talking about some human rights later, but for now, we'll be talking about Belarus. So there's this guy that the Belarusian officials apparently sent some... apparently, there was supposedly there was going to be some interception of a commercial jet that this opposition figure in Belarus, Roman Protasevich.
Sounds noodly.
Well, he's Slavic, so their names are very interesting, at least for American audiences, I'm sure. But so it's just some background for people that don't know. Belarus is it's one of those places that a lot of media outlets call it Europe's last dictatorship. Can you smell the drama on my voice when I say that? Mm-hmm. Europe's last dictatorship. It's fucking Vice media.
It's almost like they're patting themselves on the back for recognizing it.
Yeah, exactly. It's just dripping with snark and nastiness and just like judgment. Because they try to. This is what they fucking do. They try to present it as like backwards and weird and like different to make you scared of it. And so some shit like Vice Media, like they probably have a documentary about it. Some fucking idiot travel vlog guy probably has a video about it.
They have actually a huge blog series about these two bros who go to Belarus and show the rest of the world that it's actually pretty tight.
Yeah.
That's their exact wording.
I'm sure that does not surprise me at all. That's because people fucking go there to these fucking places that the media hypes up to be these like shitholes or these scary places or these odd sort of, liminal sort of surreal spaces.
And they go there and they're like, hey, they have great ramen. And their host is like, my name is Ramon.
I'm buying this story just hook, line, and sinker, and I know you're fucking with me.
Oh, I'm full of shit.
Yeah. So Belarus has been in the, I guess, the sights or the focus of a lot of Western media these days because they kind of had an opportunity to stick with Russia and the sort of eastern sort of trade corridor that's trying to be formed in opposition to the typical U.S. European trade domination that's so common in developing nations in the former USSR and in Central Asia and just all over Asia, basically, where Russia and China are trying to set up an alternate system of trade where they get to play ball with everybody, and the nations that have been subjugated in the past by the European Union after 1991, and all these former sort of communist aligned places, all the places that wars break out in. You always hear about wars breaking out, and they're trying to basically set up an alternate trade ecosystem, which was what I was trying to say. And so recently, Belarus had the opportunity to basically choose U.S., Europe, or the East, and Russia and Asia.
I'm sorry. I don't understand why it's referred to as an alternate trade ecosystem yet.
Right. Okay. So the idea is that instead of the typical, Western system of our companies come in and set up locations here, and mostly the executive parts of it and the trade decisions and basically the future and the destiny of your natural resources are decided by us and are developed by our financial institutions. That's sort of what the West does. They say, your future is only determined by how likely you are to make your business decisions favorable to us.
Like God intended.
Right. Like the white Christian God intended.
Exactly.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
White Christian baby Jesus.
But the alternate, or sort of the thing that I think the West is most scared of, or maybe not scared. I don't know if they're really quaking in their boots because of how much bravado and how much just arrogance they have. But the alternate thing, if you don't want to get yourself in these crazy debt traps and years of dealing with the IMF, dealing with European and investments and American investments telling you how to run your country.
Yes, the International Money Fund.
Yes, monetary fund. But yeah, the IMF, the World Bank. If you don't want to deal with these kinds of people who will bankrupt your country the minute you decide you want to have a progressive government, or literally any government that goes against liberal democratic values, if you want to escape that, the alternate system that you're going to sort of work into is sort of what some propagandists from China and Russia maybe would try to sell you as a new Silk Road. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Based on the historical idea that the old Silk Road was a place where lots of goods were traded and people walked those roads to trade them.
That one got shut down by the FBI.
The new Silk Road.
Yeah.
But so some people, I mean, I just call it the Eastern Trade Corridor as opposed to. Anyway, we're kind of getting off the rails here, but
Okay.
that's what I'm trying to say is that the Eastern trade ecosystem as opposed to the Western trade ecosystem, which is wrought with imperialism. So Belarus recently, maybe like last year, had sort of a landmark moment where they kind of started to break away from Russia, and that was the opportunity for Western imperialists to strike. And there is a huge trade union support, or they claimed it was like one tractor factory.
Okay.
And it's mostly reactionaries and Nazis because, like it or not, since the USSR was illegally dissolved, fascism and reaction, just like it has since Trump was president, has been rearing its ugly head more and more and more, especially in the former USSR, because there are no longer, authoritarian, quote unquote, laws and officials and mechanisms to stop fascists from being just out in the open. And in fact, in Ukraine, they had their, we'll call it the Belarus moment in 2014 with the Euromaidan coup.
It's like a senior moment.
Yeah, it is. It's a senior moment in that they are extremely confused. Ukraine was very confused. I don't know what they were doing, but ever since then, there's been a rise in fascism, and that's a good segue to talk about this Roman Protasevich, and this is kind of, I would call this guy the Alexei Navalny of Belarus, right? Because if, for people that don't know, Alexei Navalny is the opposition leader, quote unquote. He's really just a fucking clown who has no actual relevance in Russia, but he claims to, and the West recognizes that claim. Just like him, he's a sort of clean-shaven, presentable young man who is successful in what the West considers successful. Being kind of a business owner, being well-connected, being the son of a rich person. Just all these sort of white bread, good boy qualities.
Yeah, but can he make me come?
You'd have to ask his wife on that one. She has some fucking loyalty to this guy, so I guess he's putting it down in bed. I'm not really sure. I don't generally try to wonder about politicians and leadership figures.
I actually think about political sex lives all the time.
That's
like
hot,
it's
bro.
I first of all, sometimes it is. Like,
Do you think fucking who's that feminist icon, liberal feminist icon, like one of the wives of one of the presidents, like, is it Eleanor Roosevelt? Is that who it is?
Maybe.
I don't know, but just, they fucking love that shit. And it's like, yeah, she was probably a right winger, but if that's your feminist icon, that's okay. I mean,
yeah, sure.
I'm a man. I can't say anything about that.
She tried, right?
Anyway, I don't give a shit about the American bullshit. All Americans are stupid anyway. Isn't that what they say? I don't know.
Sorry, we're off the rails as fuck today.
Yeah. So let's just keep talking about fucking ramen. I love ramen spectroscopy. I love ramen, the dish. But this Protasevich guy fucked up. I mean, he's the Belarusian. Alexei Navalny, because Alexei Navalny, a lot of people don't realize this about him. He's one of those anti-hijab guys. He's seen as this like liberal reformer, but he like hates Muslims in Russia, and like, he's like one of those guys. So let's.
So what did Ramen do?
Yeah, let's check this out. So this is from The Guardian, and if you don't know anything about The Guardian, it's basically like the British New York Times. It's the sort of the paper of record for the UK.
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention. Every week we look at a different news source just to see what they have to, how they would like to spin the news for that day. And we also like to, discuss the source and their own biases and our own biases, looking at their biases and etc. So today we're looking at The Guardian, which is basically the British New York Times, apparently.
Not apparently, it is. It certainly is.
But what does that mean?
So to me, what it means is, a lot of people like to present, the New York Times, or use their tagline as the paper of record. It's the foremost.
Oh, okay.
So it's a foremost sort of journalistic, infrastructure. The when they say paper of record, what they're implying is that in 20 years, 50 years, somebody's going to look back at it and be like, this is what was happening. This is history.
That's not PBS.
What, PBS?
New York Times is not PBS.
Petty bourgeois shawls. I wear those all the time. Public broadcasting.
I mean, okay, let's be honest. Is PBS not like generally accepted as the most unbiased, this is the news source?
Oh, absolutely not.
No?
No. I mean, the New York Times is literally the foremost, and I think most people's mind in this country, the foremost news source. It's where the biggest writers go to cut their teeth. It's where journalists make their careers.
I'm just talking about like objective lack of leaning or slant in any way.
I don't think so. I personally think that PBS News is and NPR as well kind of have the same
NPR is more left leaning, but PBS I've always thought was the most neutral news source.
Have you ever watched their international coverage?
Not since I was a wee lad.
Yeah. It's pretty egregious. I mean, it's just the same shit as NPR, really. I mean, and so that's where the Guardian kind of leans, is that's where they sit, is that they're slightly left leaning, but they try to bring in a lot of voices and cover a lot of topics, a lot of breadth to their coverage, so that it seems prestigious and also unbiased. And
I need to recalibrate my references because I've always had PBS as like the cornerstone for like unbiased neutrality.
well, you also have to think. Talking to me, I get paid about $300,000 a year to pretend to be the most furthest left possible voice that can possibly exist.
Those boys at Langley love stirring the communist pot.
They do, and I'm happy to stir it for them. I love making a good stew. So, PBS may be as neutral as most people might expect, but for me, in my idea and that's sort of my, what I'm setting out to achieve and my ideological inclination, I think that they are just as reactionary as anybody else
All right.
in the left-leaning sphere.
Fair enough.
Quote unquote. So let's just right off the bat get into this Guardian article about Mr. Protasevich getting captured by a fighter jet, and just in the headline they say he's a journalist, which we'll get into in a second why that is absolutely insanely stupid. So in an interview. An article goes on to say, in an interview last November, the 26-year-old opposition journalist, I want to sort of parenthetically highlight that and come back to it later.
Opposition journalist.
Protasevich said he was not planning to spend his life in exile. Quote, I would go back to Belarus immediately if my safety was guaranteed. He said, quote, my intention is to return, unquote.
Wait, he left?
Yeah, oh yeah. Because, I mean, this is the thing about the last dictatorship in Europe, is that you can't have differing opinions because they're a dictatorship. You can't disagree with Lukashenko, who is, president for life, Emperor Lukashenko, or whatever they want to make you believe.
So, are you saying this for real? It sounds real tongue-in-cheek.
Yeah, it's not real.
Okay.
First of all, he is the legitimately elected president. Now, whether those elections were, without corruption or were legitimate is entirely up to your own perspective. And to the West's perspective, no possible election post 2014 where Lukashenko or his quote cronies unquote win is going to be legitimate to them, because the only legitimate result that they'll ever see is him not being president anymore. He has been president for a very long time.
Okay.
He's been president since the illegal dissolution of the USSR, which in and of itself could be a little fishy for some. I understand that. So just continuing on in this article, the extraordinary circumstances of Protasevich's involuntary homecoming has provoked, and I'm fucking like, this is echoes right here, provoked international outrage. Because we all know international outrage means the G20 at the least. Most of the imperialist powers, if you ask any developing country that's maybe undecided on who they like better, the United States or Russia or China or Russia and China, the opinion might change, because I think, if you asked Nicaragua what they thought about this, maybe they wouldn't be so outraged. Or if you asked Cuba what they thought about this, they may not be so outraged. If you asked Georgia, the country, not the state, if they were outraged, well, anything to upset Russia, but they wouldn't be that upset. So after his Ryanair flight was forced on Sunday to land in Belarus's capital, Minsk, it was on its way from Greece to Lithuania, where Protasevich was living. Now, why the fuck was he in Lithuania and not Belarus? We'll find out later, folks. Friends have Riley noted that the thunderous and very public manner of his arrest is in keeping with his outsized career and personality. Everything he does is loud, said Nikolai Kalazin, who has known him for a decade. He said, the riot police came and arrested me. Roma got a fighter jet. Kalazin, the co-artistic director of the Belarus Free Theater. Just free theater. Let me highlight that.
What's that?
Good question. I don't know, but just the marketing alone on the name tips something off to me. Pointed to Protasevich's other achievements. They include working with the main editor for Next Alive, the Telegram channel, which played a key role last year in organizing protests against Belarus's vengeful president, Alexander Lukashenko. Now, let's recall what I was saying earlier. You know, these were the protests wherein you have mostly business interests and one tractor factory. One union at one tractor factory. I wouldn't really call those mass uprisings, which at the time when they were covered, that's sort of how they were understood. And the numbers got fudged a lot, and there were a lot of photo ops to make the numbers look bigger. Kind of like what Donald Trump does. That's what right-wingers do all the time. They'll pump up the numbers to make themselves look better. And that's exactly what happened here. At its peak, Nexta had 2 million subscribers, making it the largest channel of its kind in Eastern Europe. I don't believe that characterization of it for 1 second. I'm sure there's a lot more channels in Eastern Europe that are more popular by subscriber number. Protasevich was key to his success. Those opposed to Lukashenko's rigging of last August's presidential election were able to upload videos anonymously, thereby dodging an internet clampdown. So we're kind of getting these, and again, I'm going to skip over this, but they have many more quotes from Kalazin about all of these nice things he's saying, you know, about all of this stuff. And I just want to add something else he said. With respect to what Protasevich's fate is, quote, he's been tortured. I'm sure of this. And this confession, what we saw was the result of this torture. We are living in the Orwellian Stalin-style dictatorship that destroys lives in order to let the supreme leader stay in power. So, typical Western hysterics are at play here. Mm-hmm. So let's look at who this Protasevich guy really is. Okay, so the Guardian is painting a very sympathetic picture for him, but if we kind of dig deeper into what exactly it is that he's been implicated in and what his character is, we see a very different picture than the leader of the free movement in Belarus. In fact, what we find out is that this motherfucker palled around all the time with the Azov Brigade. Okay, and the Azov Brigade is a neo-Nazi Ukrainian battalion that is very well connected and very well funded, trained and armed by the United States government.
Weird how we keep doing that.
Yeah, that was one of Biden's first. You know, the Trump. You would expect it from the Trump administration to send money to a bunch of Nazis.
I would expect it from most administrations here.
Right, that was one of Biden's first orders of business, is to keep sending money to these motherfuckers.
All right.
So we learned from some sources here. I mean, there's FOIA research and the Canada Files have essentially compiled a dossier on this guy, right? And so we've learned that he's actually part of the fascist Young Front militia of Belarus, and that he's fought alongside the neo-Nazi Azov Battalion in Ukraine. He actually went to court in Belarus. They didn't fucking take him off to jail and, you know, put bamboo skewers under his fingernails. They give him a fair trial, which you would never expect for Europe's last dictatorship. He's also appeared on the swimsuit edition of the Black Sun recruitment magazine for the Azov Battalion. Just kidding about the swimsuit edition. He's actually in military fatigues with a gun and a very nerdy looking girl in overalls with a leather purse, which wonderful purse. I wish I had one of those. But yeah, so if you don't know what the Black Sun is, it is a recruitment magazine for the Azov Battalion, and their logo, curiously enough, is shared by many neo-Nazi groups here in the United States. It's the little, well, it's the Black Sun. I mean, it's the white and black. In this case, it's yellow for Ukraine, but and the Azov Battalion colors. It's just this little jagged sort of spiral. It's a classic fascist symbol.
Okay.
He's got lots of pictures of himself at multiple Azov Battalion parades, events. Apparently, he actually also fought in Donbass, which
In what?
is Donbass is a region in Ukraine that is currently contested. It it was part of the series of different regions that used to belong in quotes to Ukraine.
Contested by who?
Ukraine and Russia.
Oh, okay.
Really, it's not really Russia. Russia just lent their support. It's people who live there. So it's in Luhansk and Donetsk, and they call it the Donbass region, and also Crimea. There are a lot of what we might call like Russified Ukrainians or Russians, and also a minority group, the Tatars.
So like, Ukraine was like, "Hey, we own this region," and the people in the area were like, "No, fuck you, we're Russian." And Ukraine was like, "No, fuck you, get out of here."
Yes, and they held a referendum, which overwhelmingly was in favor of secession. Like we're talking like 90+%.
Secession from Ukraine. Okay.
Right. And it is currently disputed, and there's lots of war and conflict.
So far, at least based on the article and what I've heard about his goings on, it sounds like he is going against what the people in his area want.
Yeah, pretty much. And he's a fascist.
Okay, so you were so tongue in cheek about him being characterized as a dictator that I wasn't sure if he actually was or was not.
Lukashenko is the legitimate president of Belarus. Now, whether or not he's an authoritarian is, I think, a matter of debate. And
But
I wouldn't.
you do think he's a fascist?
Lukashenko? Absolutely not.
What?
No, I think he's a nationalist. I don't think he's a fascist.
What's the difference?
Well, when it comes to these sort of former USSR countries, it can be hard for a lot of Western audiences to look at that and really know. Because in the USSR, for its entire existence, nationalism was not necessarily seen as synonymous with fascism or a bad thing. Because
I just feel that way because of how it's played out here.
Yeah. No, and that's but think about this. If you want to use that example, is the nationalism of, for example, the Muskogee Nation or the people like black people in the United States who want to set up their own communities where their norms, their economic future, and their sort of the way they conduct themselves is completely controlled by themselves and by black people for black people. Is that nationalism? Is that reactionary nationalism? Is that fascism? I
don't
personally
fucking know,
don't
man.
believe it is. And so for the USSR in those times, they saw nationalism as a liberatory force.
All right.
And especially for oppressed nations or nations that were suffered, at least in their mind, the biggest brunt of the atrocities of World War II. And Belarus, there's a famous movie that depicts this and is one of the hardest movies, one of the best movies you'll ever see. It's called Come and See, and it's literally set in Belarus, and it's about how Belarus took the biggest brunt of the fascist invasion of the former USSR in World War II. So
Okay.
you have to sort of understand why these people would hate fascists so bad, why that's an affront to an entire shared psychology, a shared history.
To refer to nationalism as fascism?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, that's pretty much what's going on in Belarus. So
he got in trouble for like posing with neo-Nazis?
No,
Basically?
he got in trouble
with
for
them?
being a fucking rabble rouser.
Okay.
And the West is trying to paint him as a journalist and being like, I can't believe that they scrambled jets to intercept him and arrest him. This is not the first time this has happened, by the way. The French did this to Syrian revolutionaries in the 50s. So if France and the United States, who are their friends, are so guffawing, holding their pearls, are so shocked, oh, I can't believe it. Oh, these fucking, assholes. If they're fucking that, like, upset about it, maybe they should look at their own history. You know what I mean?
Oh, we don't have history.
No.
The United States history is just today forward.
Yeah. And the next day, and the next day. And the next day.
As it goes, because we're perfect. All right. As per usual, we basically ate up the entire time talking about the news, just dissecting one story and the publication that brought it to us, which is, honestly, I'm okay with that. It seems to be the groove we're falling into. Maybe once we've like done every news source, like we can stop introducing it with what we know or think about the news source and then just like go straight to what they're talking about. But also we go pretty in depth about the news topic, so like I'm not mad at it.
I'm extremely pissed right now. I'm riding a fucking pissed off wave.
At the owner of this podcast.
Hell yeah. I'm pissed. I'm self-pissed. I'm pissed at myself.
Okay. Do we have a joint address yet? We should have an email address for this podcast.
We should. That way we can get fan mail.
You're right.
And you guys can tell us that we're fucking idiots and tell us about why we were wrong about this and why we were wrong about that. Because I'm so happy for this.
Starting this week, you will now be able to contact us directly by emailing ThisCourse@gmail.com. If that ends up being unavailable, I will edit this part out. Maybe not. Who knows? But it's going to be a thing. You can tell us what you think, what you want us to talk about. If you think we're stupid, whatever you want to say to us.
I like how he hasn't even set up the email yet.
And
we're already getting hate mail.
We are available for your criticism or praise, whatever you want to say.
I'm going to have him read it to me, and then I'm going to be like, that's fucking bullshit, bro.
We might even incorporate it into the show. Who knows? Actually, I don't hate that.
Ooh, a mailbag segment?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, yeah,
that'd be fun,
dude.
If it happens. If anybody contacts us, you'll probably get on the show. I'm not going to lie. Anyway. All right. So there was that. The topic of the day. Lay it out for me.
Yeah, man. So I think this is a pretty controversial topic because a lot of countries have this human right in their constitution, if they've passed laws about it. And it's to me, when I first thought about it, and I've known about this for a while. I think the first time I brushed up on this subject was in maybe like 2010, and I immediately latched onto it, and I thought, this is fucking legit. This is really fucking cool. This should be a thing for every country, because I have a personality disorder, because I don't have a stable sense of identity.
Oh, wow.
And this human right, if you believe some countries it to be a human right, is the right to be forgotten. And this right deals a lot with sort of your internet impact or your internet footprint, right?
Oh, good luck with that shit.
Exactly. If you're on the internet, the shit that you say and the persona that you present and the be it photographic or videographic or just shit that you say, textual evidence of who you are and ways you've interacted with the various data structures that are inextricable from my life at this point, you can't really go and scrub them.
Yeah, plenty of people out there just know that I'm an asshole now, and I hate it.
Yes. I've known that for a while.
I wish it was more of a secret.
Exactly. So, do you think you have the right to be forgotten?
I mean, yeah, but I personally don't care enough to exercise that right.
Right.
I'm okay with being seen and also seen as a dick either way.
But do you think that you have that right legally, whether or not you want to exercise it
I mean,
in the
yeah,
United
sure.
States?
Okay. Do I think I have it, or do I
Yeah.
think I should have it?
Let's go with both. Tell me
'Cause
first if you think we have it and should we have it.
I mean, I'm just gonna automatically say no. I don't think it's something that's there because of the nature of how the internet works so far, and how it's so permanent. Like even if you're like if you upload a video to YouTube and you delete it immediately, first of all, it still exists out there somewhere. Especially if you're already famous, somebody's already like screen grabbed it, downloaded it, whatever. But even beyond that, like it's on a server somewhere, definitely, And just by nature of how, information on the internet works, like you can't really bury anything. If somebody looks hard enough, they'll find it. But
Right.
I don't know. I mean, should there be a mechanism in place to, nuke your online existence? Maybe.
Right. And now, I mean, especially we're dealing, I think, a lot with a lot of people now have said things in the past that were
At the time, accepted, but no longer.
or borderline accepted at the time.
Yeah.
Because really, if you look into it, a lot of these people that say kind of raunchy, kind of maybe like racist or misogynistic
Like, it wasn't
things.
super tight when they said it.
Yeah, but a certain portion of the population laughed, and
Yeah.
a certain part of the population didn't feel like they could really gain some traction by critically examining it and raising, some questions about it. And I think the online outrage machine was not taken as seriously or was not as functional. You couldn't really go for people's necks back in the day.
Oh, people get fired for saying racist shit now.
Right. Yeah, I think, and I want to avoid the cliche of cashing in on this sort of like, oh, cancel culture, shit, because it is my opinion that coming at people who say socially objectionable things is a good way to control the behavior of people who are otherwise untouchable.
Oh, so you're pro
Celebrities.
cancel culture.
I wouldn't say that I'm pro cancel culture. What
You heard it here, folks. Fucking Chad Smith, purveyor of sunglasses you put over your regular glasses, is pro cancel culture.
I think that it plays a role. I think it has a function.
No, definitely.
In
There's got to
fact,
be some mechanism of accountability.
It's a great way to silence your enemies.
You said that with such a straight face.
I mean, okay. Here's what I really think about it. I think that, okay, and I'm just gonna say this: before we called it cancel culture, we called it call out culture.
Yeah.
And
before we called it
called
call out culture, we called it accountability.
And before we called it that, we called it bitch is mad. Hoes be mad. Hoes mad.
We just got haters. That's all it is.
Haters make me fucking famous, bro. And honestly, with people like, and I think a lot of people don't really realize the impact of this because the rush and the feeling of belonging that that comes with taking a moral position and then having it being validated and justified by a large group of people mobilizing against someone for a common goal. That is a fucking, it's a thrill. It's a rush. It's a rush of an experience. And I think you can easily get caught up in this without sort of, coming up with a real clear direction, right? Because accountability, people should treat their communities like communist parties, to be honest with you. There should be some degree of accountability and ideological purity, and you should always be thinking about what you're saying. You should always consider your actions. I mean, this is something that you learn as a child if you have, a decent upbringing.
I mean, this is the basis of any community.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
everyone agrees on a set of rules.
Yeah.
And
deviation from that is sanctioned,
punishable.
socially sanctioned.
Yeah.
Now, I think that what the punishment mechanism is leaves a lot to be desired.
Yeah.
And it can cause a lot of problems, but I think there's a lot of people exacting righteous revenge on people who have not been the recipients of that for so long. And I understand that part of it. But here's the thing is that what I see lacking in a lot of this is that there's no way to restore, reify the relationship of the targeted person, reify their relationship to their society of which they're being sort of alienated from, isolated from.
Wait, what the fuck does reify mean?
It means take some theory or some theoretical thing and make it real. Like take it from the I'm saying we're gonna do this to doing it.
That's called realify.
Sure.
Learn
whatever.
your grammar.
It's reify, but that's fine. So for me, I see a lot of people failing that part of it. Sure, we can fucking isolate someone. Sure, we can fucking ostracize someone, but we don't bring them back in afterwards. We don't create meaningful steps to bring them back in. And I think in that, knowing what I know about that now, and knowing that people's fucking weird mob rule mentality or whatever the fucking conservatives try to convince you is going on, there's no recourse for a person who has accepted accountability, who has gone through that kind of process, and that process may not exist for them. So I think the right to be forgotten, my position on it now, which is different from what it was
5 minutes ago
in 2010, I think that I believe in the right to be forgotten for different reasons than I did in 2010. Because in 2010, I was like, your internet presence is completely disconnected from who you are.
I wouldn't say completely. I mean, it's fairly disconnected from who you end up being, for sure.
Yeah. Well, and this really gets into also the idea that information on the internet is not, it's compartmentalized from real life. And that's becoming less and less true.
I mean, I can understand the inclination to feel that way, which is the result of a lot of behavior that wouldn't exist outside of the internet, which I understand. Okay, I understand now why you say it's completely disconnected from your real persona, but it's not, because like
you made that.
Yeah, it
you
came
wrote
out of
that
your
thing.
face. Like you had that thought and you decided to put it in ink on the internet.
You realize you're talking to a cloud of shredded up CD, like CD dust. You're interacting with a cloud of dusted CD-ROMs. CDs. Nuts, bitch!
Get the fuck out of here.
No, I'm just kidding. No, I mean, who do you think Chad Smith is? Is it the man sitting before you?
Well, clearly not, because the man sitting before me is eloquent.
Is made out of CDs.
Okay.
Good try though. So I mean, for me, I look at the right to be forgotten, and I think that it could cause a lot of bad things.
So like
as well, in addition to like my change, like my coming full circle and supporting it, I think that it could be used to troll people.
What?
Yeah. You know, like patent trolls.
The white to be forgotten can be used to troll people?
Yeah, so check. So
you mean like the dirty delete? Like when you say something really, really mean and then you like block the other person?
Yeah, that's kind of. Yeah. I mean, it's like the dirty delete taken and extended over multiple years. But there's been this. So the right to be forgotten was sort of an obscure thing up until Google and Facebook basically ruled our everyday lives.
Okay.
And it's becoming invoked because it's been on the books, so to speak, in law and in practice in the European Union and Argentina since like 2006. but it was
wait. It's an actual law in certain places.
Right, exactly.
Okay, so how does it work? Like,
that's a fucking great ass question. Let me just give you some background for like how it was sort of talked about in the United States. So in 1931, there was this case of an ex-prostitute that was charged with murder, and she was acquitted. You know, if you're a student or a consumer of true crime shit, that predates the 1950s, which is some of the most interesting true crime. If you're a true crime fan, I'm not, because I'm not a woman. I'm just kidding.
Okay, fair enough. But
I just sound like one, which is really hot for some people.
So like, coincidentally, my mom loves that shit. And
it's fucking great.
She watches Cold Case Files religiously.
Oh my god, I would love to watch. Is she single?
No. Well, she might be soon. My dad's got dementia. So
Fuck! So I take back everything I just said. Fuck.
So the cases that predate the 50s are always interesting because it's just like, he murdered 12 people and then pissed all over the crime scene and then came in the corner, but we could never find him because
I don't know.
Nobody knew what DNA was back then.
And then they found the bodies like fucking 50 years later, like buried under concrete in a fucking like wine cellar. Because those are the only people that killed people in those days. People with fucking wine cellars. Seriously. So if you're a fan of true crime before the 1950s, this will fucking tickle your
fancy.
I was gonna say underarms, but you know, I'm nasty like that. So there was this case where this prostitute was charged with murder, and she got away with it too, and despite the meddling kids. But basically, you know, she tried to sort of get away from it all and be an anonymous person. But there's this documentary film about her that got really popular in 1925. So this is like, you know, Michael Moore was barely a fucking twinkle in his granddaddy's eyes, you know, in 1925, and she successfully sued the producer, and the court basically was like, you know, any person living a life of rectitude has the right to happiness, which includes a freedom from unnecessary attacks on his character, social standing, or reputation.
Where was this? This was in the United States?
Yeah, this is in the United States.
So a United States court said, hey, this old prostitute killed somebody, like 30, 40 years ago.
Yes.
But who gives a shit? She's doing fine now. She's chilling.
Yeah.
She's chilling.
Yes, exactly.
That happened?
Yeah.
That's actually fascinating.
But we actually don't have any explicit explicit sort of laws in the books surrounding this, right?
The statute of limitations.
Did you just pass your bar exam just now, just right in front of me? Holy fuck.
I've never been to a bar. How dare you slander my name like that?
Statute of limitations.
Statute.
How do you even fucking make a statue out of limitations? You're already fucked when you go to sculpt it.
You cobble them together like paper mache.
That's not a sculpture.
With a bunch of glue.
Well, I guess then if you go to the fucking MoMA, paper mache can be a sculpture.
It can.
I fucking call me a sculptor because I've made a lot of piñatas in my time. But yeah, so it's there's a lot of back and forth in the United States law that's it's not doesn't really settle on a clear way forward, right? There's nothing on the books, but there is one Supreme Court precedent for it, and there's a couple of, you know, district court precedents for it, and some legal scholars have tackled this issue. But it has not been sort of done out to the same level that Argentina and you know the European Union has done it. So Argentina, I think, was, and I might be wrong about this, but I think they were the first to really get into this, right? So in fucking basically their foundational legal document, I guess, or something similar to our Bill of Rights or Constitution, they explain any person shall file this action to obtain information of the data about himself and their purpose registered in public records or database or in private ones intended to supply information and in case of false data or discrimination. This action may be filed to request the suppression, rectification, and confidentiality of updating or updating of said data. So this is something that's legally actionable in Argentina. You can literally go and find where all of your personal information is out there somewhere on the internet, and you can request that certain services or certain websites, whatever, have to get rid of your shit.
I heard part of what you said. I know.
And you know what this reminds me? One of the things that we fought back and forth with my union. That's right, folks. As a real communist that is employed by the Central Intelligence Agency of America. I mean what did I say?
The state of Argentina.
Nope. The Communist Party of the United States of America. That's who my employer
is. That's your
is.
bosses, yes. That's your boss's bosses.
It's my boss's bosses. The man pulling the man behind the man pulling the man's strings. So those guys, you know, what am I trying to say? What the fuck? Know. Yeah. So when we were fighting for a union, this sort of thing, this Argentina's law kind of reminds me of that. You have a right. You have a fucking right under the sort of labor jurisdiction. The labor board and the union negotiators representing you have the right to bring you in with a union steward and look at your personnel file. And you have the right to dispute, redact, or otherwise remove anything in the personnel file that you disagree with. That is something that if you put it in those terms, if you sort of make it very, very context specific, it sounds like you would want that. It's something that protects you.
It sounds like as an individual, I would want that, but like, it gets a little messy when you talk about like law enforcement, because like, what if there's a guy who committed what turned out to be atrocities, but at the time he was just being a capitalist, making capitalistic decisions, but then really he poisoned a village and stole their water source and forced them to use your factory as a source of water, and you're charging them money for it, Nestle. And then
you pay more for water than you pay for Coca-Cola.
Right, exactly.
In Mexico.
And then you just have all of your business practices in that area just expunged from your record just because you don't feel like it represents you as a person.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one of the problems that I see with it too. Is that even though I think individuals, and this is such a fucking out of the ordinary topic to be sort of debating internally and with another person, because I'm against individualism. I'm against shit like that. But I'm all for fucking personal accountability. I'm all for
I have an anecdote.
Corporations being
situation. This was actually relevant to my life. So there is a local comedian. We won't say any names or any specifics.
Yeah, I will. It's Roger Stonefield.
Close.
Hate that motherfucker.
So there's a local comedian who about 2 years ago got ousted for a very socially unacceptable practice, we'll just say. When he was younger, got in serious legal trouble for a very serious act, or an attempted act, rather. And then he went to prison for a few years, got out, grew up more, and then moved to Little Rock, started doing stand-up for a few years, and after doing that for a while, it got out that in his past he had done this thing, and the community shunned him completely. Just outright.
Not everybody did.
That's not unfair. Not everybody did. He definitely had a handful of people who were sympathetic to his situation, or at the very least sympathetic to him.
One of them has me blocked on Twitter.
Oh, fair. Fair.
Yeah, but I would block me on Twitter too.
And recently, very recently, I saw him at a local open mic, and he had done his first open mic set in over 2 years. I mean, he was very rusty, and
he was hoping people forgot.
Pretty much. And it had been a couple years. He was very rusty, and there were only like other comedians in the audience. He bombed. He didn't do great, but he tried. You know,
Yeah,
like
he
like,
deserved that.
He was, testing the waters again or whatever. How do you feel about his right to be forgotten? And do you think you can exercise a right to be forgotten if you're the type of person who decidedly puts yourself in the limelight in that way? Because he was doing stand-up comedy.
Oh my God, I'm so glad that you're bringing this up. No, exactly, because I when I think about the right to be forgotten, because I was about to say, you could use this to troll people, just like people do, fucking DMCA requests or takedowns. Right, some like copyright trolls, or people people who go after copyright things they don't necessarily have the right to claim, but it's just so frequent that it's hard to process them. Or it's corporations or large, big fucking recording industry people that the relevant authority is not going to really scrutinize the request. They're just going to they have a fucking no questions asked, we'll take it down and then figure it out later, sort of thing. Shoot first, ask that's what I was trying to do. Yeah, shoot first, ask. But what I'm trying to say here, I guess, is I see a difference between that, because if a fucking politician or a celebrity or whatever fucking has
a performer,
somebody that's in the public eye,
yeah,
that is their job, and they have sort of fallen into that either intentionally because that's what they want to do with their life, that's what they make their money on, or they've become big enough, right?
Just by doing what they're doing.
Yeah, and I think that's a separate issue. Like, for example, like we all have things we'd like to forget happened, and we all have things that if you are a decent person and you do the right thing, you seek restitution with people that you've wronged, and you go through the necessary motions to apologize, to hold yourself accountable, have yourself be accountable to other people, and make the necessary changes to do certain things that maybe you don't want to do, or but whatever the case is, you make the effort to make the situation better. And once you have changed those behaviors, once you've gone to therapy, made amends with people,
you rehabilitate. The system works. He's a better person. That kind of thing.
Yeah, once that happens, or if there's a lot of controversy about a certain thing, and it was proof positive that they were, it was fucking bullshit.
Okay, never mind. I was about to say, in this case, it was proof positive that he did.
Oh, of course, and I know that. No, that's fine. But
he did that shit.
What I'm saying is for individuals who, because people can be dramatic and they can come up with a lot of reasons to dislike somebody. Like, I heard so and so is a shoplifter. I heard so and so beat their dog, and those things may or may not be true. And if they are true, people will find out.
Yeah.
There is no way that you can hide certain patterns of behavior.
Right.
And if they turn out to be untrue, and you've figured them out with your community as an individual, or if they are true and you've rectified the situation, I think as an individual, it's okay to invoke this right, in my opinion. But if you are someone that's in the public eye,
right,
and you are constantly coming up in people's conversations, and people don't know you like a community would know you, your friends, your peer group, the people that you come into contact with that you may have hurt or you may have been accused of hurting, that you've rectified the situation, I think that right should be extended to you. And a lot of this legal language in practice does not work that way, and is not that way. It's for celebrities.
So in this specific anecdotal instance,
he does not have the right to be forgotten.
Okay, I thought you were going to go the opposite direction. So
he's in the public eye.
Because he's in the public eye, you think he should not have the right to be forgotten. That makes sense. Because honestly, like, especially for people who hold positions of power, like, information is important, especially when it comes to being able to trust the people that you entrust your at least money, at most time and devotion to. I get that. That makes sense.
Right, but a lot of this legal language is geared specifically towards people that are in the public eye.
Yeah, well,
Which is
of course.
originally when I first, like I said, I came full circle on this. When I first found out about this, I supported it, and then I changed my mind, and then I'm coming back to support it. I support it for people who are individuals,
Okay.
and I think that there should be a mechanism with the government as well, because in my in the world that I imagine to exist, because I get paid an exorbitant amount of money, exorbitant amount of money to imagine and convince everybody to live in, want to live in. There is going to be people's tribunals.
Oh, death panels. I love it. Can't wait.
And normal, everyday, average guys should have the right to be forgotten once they've made their amends to society. But people like Jeff Bezos, we got to know that you're Jeff Bezos, and once you fucking work in the coal mines for 5 years, you're coming out of there, and we're all going to know who you are.
And we're going to beat your shit in.
I will not be doing that, but you are free to do that. As a worker and conscious worker of the vanguard of the immortal science of Marxism. No, I'm just kidding. I would never say something like that. Yeah.
All right, so this is the last thing I'm going to bring up. We might not even have the time to include it if it doesn't go anywhere worthwhile, but I just thought this was relevant and interesting. Are you aware of the concept of etawaf?
Who?
Etawaf.
Epitaph?
ETEWAF. Everything there ever was, available forever. It's basically like the inevitability that the internet is leaning towards or leading to. It's like at any point in our distant future, you can say, I would like to watch this episode of Golden Girls, and I would like to read that newspaper from that day, and I would like to see Jim Bob's Facebook post.
I'm so glad you're bringing this up. Yes. Go on.
Because, well, this isn't an original concept of mine. This is just something that I actually heard about from watching a Patton Oswalt stand-up set. But
right.
It's fascinating to me because it's basically...
You fucking watch Patton Oswalt? Bro,
I watch comedy, all right?
He killed his wife. Didn't you hear that?
What?
I'm just kidding.
Okay.
No, that's what people say.
Really?
And I think.
Oh, no, his wife
he
died.
does not have the right to be forgotten for that.
I don't think he has the balls to do it anyway. So
yeah, you're right. He is kind of a, a little bit of
kind of a bottom.
kind of a
Yeah.
kind of a squeal, whoop whoop, kind of one of those.
Yeah. But no, ever since I heard about this, like 6 or 7 years ago, I thought it was a fascinating concept because it's like, it wasn't probably the original intention of whoever created the internet, but it's like gonna happen more or less. Even
I don't know. I have talked to Al Gore about this exact thing, and he told me he intended to have your dirty laundry out there for everybody to fucking see.
Even down to the extent that like people's DNA makeup from forever ago might be available in the future.
Oh, dude.
Shit like that. Like everything there ever was available forever.
Yeah, actually, yeah. You know what? I'm with that. I was watching this fucking this guy. He's such a fucking nerd. And you know what? He's so autistic. He literally is not. He's autistic.
An autist.
He literally made a video about being autistic. I'm like, that's what's up, bro. Put it out there, bro. But his whole thing is like he's talking about info hazards, and this really got me thinking because I was kind of thinking about his position is because there are certain like bits of information that are potentially hazardous or whatever, that certain types of information should be restricted. And I don't believe that, and this really runs contrary to
like what types of information?
Just any information. I mean, there are certain exceptions, obviously, that are fucking just so objectionable that should never exist.
But like information based on the discretion of the source of the information?
Well, like things like how to fucking, and I deal with this a lot, being a guy who got interested into chemistry through things that are less than legal. You know what I'm saying? And so, had it not been for crusaders of free information, which a lot of times they're very reactionary, idiot libertarians.
Yeah, but still, there are good sources of information.
Yeah, and for me, I think learning how to make a fucking plutonium bomb or like how to make drugs are like that's considered an info hazard, at least for the powers that be.
Like how to make your own Viagra at home.
Yeah, which is actually very easy.
I know, I do all the time.
I don't do that because I'm not a
I've
fucking
never done
weirdo.
I've never done that.
But I know how because I'm a chemist.
I don't know. Why would I know how to do that?
I don't know, because Blue Chew, by the way. No, I'm just kidding. Not a sponsor. not a fucking sponsor, dude. My dick's hard right now.
My dick's hard every time I talk to you, buddy.
No, but I mean, I think that I really do believe that information should be freely available, even if it's dangerous. But then it kind of butts up with my fucking weird opinions, political beliefs that I get paid a lot of money to believe, that I learned when I went to Harvard Law. that they that they forced down my throat. Because with the thing that I believe is that I don't think that fascist beliefs should be. It's a fucking brain worm. It's a brain worm worse than learning like the very minimal like people who fucking learn how to make bombs and how to make drugs and stuff like that, or like that's not a brain worm. It takes like a practical level of knowledge, or like fucking like how to commit insurance fraud. Shit like that. It's like but it's stuff like that, like for me, and maybe this is just me being me, ideological things are brain worms because they hijack every way you look at the world. But things like how to compress movies a certain way.
There's a very relevant Kevin Smith quote. Well, technically it was a Chris Rock quote in a Kevin Smith movie, but he was playing the 13th disciple who didn't get included in the Bible because he was black. Anyway, the character said in the movie,
Jesus was black. What the fuck? That's fucked up.
Yeah, that was also part of the movie.
Never seen it. Okay.
Dogma? No?
Oh, I've seen that movie multiple times.
Yeah, but there was a line in that movie where Chris Rock's character said, Rufus, if you will, ideas are great, but a belief is a tricky thing. Because you can change an idea, but a belief people stick with. People die for it. Like, people change their whole lives for a belief. But, like, an idea is malleable and can be subject to... Fuck. I mean, I'm obviously, like, adding on to the quote at this point, but, like... all right, fair enough. Fair enough.
Oh, dude, hey, this blunt.
You're right. Shut the fuck up. I do not touch the weed.
Yeah, I only do... I only do poppers and Jimson weed, Datura, Belladonna.
And Kratom.
I don't do that. That's too legal for me. So I think now is a good time to go ahead and tell you that today's episode is sponsored by Showbiz Pizza. I have to tell you guys, Showbiz Pizza is coming. It's coming back. It's coming back, folks. Okay, and I just want to let you know why it's coming back. Now that Chuck E. Cheese is out of the picture, it's finally time for the long-foretold return of the Showbiz Pizza Bear. Now that Charles Emmanuel Cheese and Rice, his Christian legal and birth name, has ran his business into the ground with his exorbitant expenditures, it is time for the Showbiz Pizza Bear to rise. That's right. It's time. It is time. It is the golden hour for the Pizza Biz to make a glorious comeback and be received with a fanfare of a 50-member bugle ensemble and pyrotechnic / laser show that pushes the boundaries of what is considered safe. Since Chuck, our wonderful Chuck, our late and great Chuck, has gone bankrupt because he insisted on covering the walls of every one of his stores in colloidal gold, high vacuum, 4060 petroleum jelly dimethicone grease. He swears this to improve the acoustics of his famous Pizza Time theater exhibitions. Of course, we all know the opposite is true. Insisting on every pizza being made with the exceptionally rare, low-moisture black rhino mozzarella. And the scandal wherein he replaced every member of the Chuck E. Cheese house band, except, of course, Jasper T. Jowls, awoo, with the animatronic stand-ins shortly after their mysterious disappearance. They all overdosed on fun. Can we rest easy knowing that the Showbiz Pizza Bear enters the market unopposed? The Showbiz Pizza Bear, or Billy Bob Broccoli, as he is known to his close colleagues, of which your humble speaker, agitator, and dispenser of general wisdom is happy to call himself a part of, is poised to be back with a furious uproar. I know many of you have probably seen the VH1 Behind the Music special on the troubled yet prodigious bear-based band, The Rock Fire Explosion. And many of you have already probably known about the strained relationship that Beach Bear and Choo Choo, Bill Bob's bandmates, had with him due to many of years of him being in and out of rehab for his clover honey addiction. I'm sure also a lot of you are already aware of the legal nightmare and rivalry with former Bearstock Festival headliners, the Country Bears. However, many of you will probably be surprised to learn that Billy Bob is actually distantly related to iconic Russian bear celebrity Cherebarashka. And I definitely said that right.
Who we all know as the bear on the ball.
He's always on the ball. He's going to be joining the band in a full-time role playing the contrabass balalaika. Will also serve as a cultural ambassador for a new pizza-based cultural communication program that former U.S. President Donald Trump has signed into operation, aptly named RANCH, Russian American National Cooperation Hotline. Folks, let me tell you, it is an honor and a privilege for me to announce this historic moment, and it could not come at a better time. This has been in the works for quite a long time. And just between you and me and our faithful, fearless leader here, Ian, it was not supposed to launch until next summer. But Billy Bob and my handlers, employers. Friends at Langley. They just couldn't keep a secret after the unsurprising. Let me tell you, we all saw it coming, folks. It was a huge destruction of the Chuck E. Cheese empire. Rest in peace,
Of pizza
slices, even. So yeah, folks, today's episode is brought to you by Showbiz Pizza.
I gotta say, that was an involved one. That was good. You had that shit prepared as fuck.
What do you mean?
Anyway,
I get sent the ad read.
I was
I read that all from. They sent it to me. What do you mean?
I was just happy to find out that I was the fearless leader. I always thought I was full of fears and also not a leader.
I mean, you tap the buttons.
That's good enough
for me. Tap the vocal cords.
Ayo, and you tap into the hearts and minds of America.
And folks, we do love you.
In a creepy way.
Not in a creepy way.
Okay, we love you as much.
He loves you in a creepy way.
We love you as much as is possible without being creepy.
I love you like Jesus loves you.
That's creepy.
I was gonna say not at all because he doesn't exist.
All right, well, I think that's as good a stopping point as any.
No. We're running late on this one. Tell me what the fuck happened with the moose.
Okay, you're right. Personal tidbit of the week. A little bit of backstory. On and off, mostly on for the past 4 or 5 years.
And it has been on.
It has been on. But for the mostly on for the past 5 years, me and a friend have been running a comedy open mic show at my friend's house, and he's a music producer. He has a dank setup. He's got a dope house. Like, his house is his studio, and he's got this shed out back that he's turned into a little bar. and it's amazing. It's decked out with equipment. It's got a nice TV. It's got an amazing bar. It's got a little stage with microphones all over the place, cameras all over the place. It's like so set up for live streaming. It's sick. And it's a little speakeasy that everybody in the land knows and loves.
That was the place that I did my the best stand-up set I've ever done.
Also the first, I believe.
No.
That you've ever done. No, that wasn't your
the
first.
Third.
Fair enough. My bad. But yeah, it's a great place for stand-up, and I've been hosting a show there. It was once a week, and then it was like twice a month, and it was once a month. But I've been hosting a show there for like 5 years, and then like we took a break because of COVID, and we were just about to start back up again, and it got shut down permanently by the zoning board of his neighborhood, or whatever the zoning board's jurisdiction is of the city. I don't fucking know. But somebody in his neighborhood complained enough times, not just once, but they complained enough that the zoning board decided that they had to crack down, just because they were like, all right, we'll enforce the laws, I guess, because this one jerk cares enough, you know.
I would have absolutely taken that motherfucker out in the street and rubbed his face in the fucking asphalt.
That's literally everyone's reaction.
Sorry, I'm fucking Italian. I'm fucking Italian, okay? We fucking do things. We do things a little bit different.
Here in Little Italy, we do things a little bit different.
A little bit different.
Everyone who knows and loves this place, which there are many people, because this is a great spot.
Nobody dislikes this place.
Nobody who's been to this place dislikes it.
I've literally told this about this place. I've told people about this place at work, and they're like, "Oh, Ben, that sounds cool as fuck."
Because it is
literally fucking 50-year-old Southern Baptist guys who like don't drink beer, and I'm like I'm very clear about what goes on there.
Yeah, no, like,
and they're like, "Oh, that's cool."
Yeah, like you can.
I'm
drink
like, yeah,
there.
people drink and smoke weed, and they're like, okay, not a fan of that, but all the other stuff, I like that. Yeah. I would go to that.
Like, he doesn't have a liquor license, so he can't, quote-unquote, sell alcohol.
Well, he's not selling it.
But he has it there for you to drink.
Yeah, it's fucking...
And there's a tip jar at the front. You know how it works.
It's literally like having a beer jar.
Yeah, it's a speakeasy. That's all it is.
Well, don't call it that. They'll get in legal trouble.
Well, whatever. It's our easy thing to speak about.
Right.
And it's tragic. Like, everyone's sad. Like, he would run a movie night every Thursday, which was how I found the place.
That's literally just entertaining people.
He just plays a movie in his bar and hangs out with his friends while they all get a little drunk. Like, who gives a shit, you know? So that's how I discovered the place. And I showed up one night and I was like, hey, we could do stand-up here. And he was like, yeah, that sounds fun. So then we just have since then. And he does, like, actual concerts there, too. Like, he's played so many shows. Anyway... It sucks. He's real sad about it. Like, he's so invested in that little place. Like, it's gonna suck for him. I just know it. Like,
I mean, so what? He can't just fucking tell people to park far away.
I mean,
far enough
where?
Away.
Like, he's in the middle of a neighborhood.
Literally, no. There's that fucking school.
It's not close.
It's literally on the corner of the turnoff street. Just walk down the street.
There's a church.
Yeah, there's a church and a school.
I mean, I guess you could walk still. I don't know.
There's a way to figure it out.
He's gonna figure something out. Like, that place is his social life. Like, it's gonna suffer without that place. He's gonna suffer. Yeah,
that's what happens with guys who are in their fucking mid-30s. They turn a fucking vanity project into their 40s. Hobbies. Whatever. It's the same shit. Yeah. Being middle-aged. I'm never gonna be that age.
So that happened literally today. And already I've had 2 people text me with, like, alternative ideas just to keep the stand-up show going.
Yes. Okay, fuck. That's a good idea.
There was one person in particular that's actually on the short list of being a front runner. Should I say her name?
No.
All right, well, she's
unless you want to give her a plug.
Sure, yeah. She's a local prominent stand-up member of the community. Upstanding member of the stand-up community. Her name is May Gaden. She's a great local comic. She's very funny. And she very, very recently cleared out all of the trees in her backyard and has been thinking about running, like, a backyard show. And now she can.
She had a stage?
Yeah. It's, like, made out of concrete.
Sweet.
And like,
all right.
so
That's what's up.
now she's like, she contacted me and she was like, hey, this fucking sucks. You should continue doing that show just at my place once a month instead of that place. Because
You don't think she's trying to do it out of like a self-serving?
I mean,
Like, this is my show. I have to get a spot.
I mean, first
Yes,
of all,
yes,
maybe,
yes.
who knows? But also, like, it's not like that show was hard to get a spot on anyway. It was an open mic.
I got onto it. So.
Exactly.
Wow, fuck you, buddy.
Look, you said it yourself. It was your third time doing comedy ever, you know?
Whatever.
Also,
I'm
many
funny,
people
so-
have had their first open mic ever. Like, they had that cherry popped at our show. I've
Don't say cherry
like
pop.
Dustin Vance, for example. He did his first stand-up show
Really?
ever at the Moose. Yeah.
And he's so good.
I know.
He's
great.
He's one of my favorite guys.
He's
I
one
love
of
that
the top
motherfucker.
people in town.
Dustin, if you're listening to this, I cannot talk good enough about you. I love your shit.
Like,
You're so funny.
I agree.
You're so nice. Bro, I love you. Anyway, shout
he's
out.
great.
Shout
But
out to Dustin.
there are a handful of local people, like more than a handful, that have
Yeah.
started at
Where
the
did
Moose.
where did Justin Booth get his start at?
At the Moose.
That motherfucker.
Yeah. No, he was a regular at the Moose
He's
before I
fucked
started
up right now.
showing
If
up.
he Justin, if you're listening to this, I know you're fucked up right now.
That's probably true, yeah. No, he's a good
What about
dude.
that Crystal lady
At the Moose?
at the Moose? Yeah, she's fucking funny, dude.
Yeah, the name of the venue is the Preserved Moose. That's why I keep saying at the Moose. But yes, that happened. It's very sad. There might be new prospects for a new venue for the same show in the near future. I'm not sure how Tedford's gonna like handle
figure it out.
handle the situation.
We'll figure it out, dude. Come
Most
on.
likely, he's gonna just like slowly keep letting people back in until like
until the code enforcement goes the fuck away.
exactly.
Yeah. That's the best move. That's what I would do.
That's basically
What are
probably
you gonna
what's
do?
gonna
What are they
happen.
gonna do to you?
Slap him with a fine of some sort, maybe.
Yeah, like a $200 fine, and we'll all fucking pull together.
As
to
a
fucking pay
community,
it.
everyone will chip in like $1 and he'll be
Yeah,
fine.
that's how speakeasies work. Bro.
Yeah.
Speaking of easy, it would be really easy if we stopped this podcast right now.
True. Thanks for listening, everybody. This has been ThisCourse. Y'all have
Yeah.
been an audience.
Hey, see
And
y'all later.
I've been Ian. This has been.
Hey, it's Chad Smith.
All right. Hey, this has
See ya.
been enough outro. Later,
This is
bitches.